John Dillinger was born June 22, 1903 in Indiana. His mother died just before his 4th birthday, leaving him in the care of his father. His father was known to be a harsh man. In an interview, Dillinger said his father believed in the adage, "Spare the rod and spoil the child." In 1912, John Dillinger's father remarried to a woman called Elizabeth Fields. Initially, John disliked her but eventually came to love her. He had a troubled childhood. Did this lead him to grow up to be a bank robber? As a teenager, Dillinger was frequently in trouble with the law for fighting and petty theft. This was the start of his criminal career. He was arrested and sentenced to 9 years in jail after he and a friend beat up and robbed a store owner. In jail, he met many people, including Harry Pete Pierpoint, Charles Mackley, Russell Clark, and Homer Van Meter. They taught him about bank robbery. The group, known as the First Dillinger Gang, comprised of Pete Pierpoint, Russell Clark, Charles Mackley, Ed Schaus, Harry Copeland, and John Hamilton. When the gang were at the height of their spree, they managed to attract the attention of the Bureau of Investigation. They were hiding out in a lodge called Little Bohemia Lodge in Wisconsin. The Bureau of Investigation had discovered their location through the owners of the lodge that were able to escape the watch of the gang and send a letter to the government informing the Bureau of Investigation of the gang's location. They surrounded the lodge and began moving in. It was not until they accidentally shot and killed 2 civilians driving away from the lodge that the gang became aware of the police surrounding them. The gang managed to escape via various routes despite the efforts of the Bureau of Investigation to surround them. There was 1 police casualty shot and killed by Nelson. The next day, Dillinger, Van Meter, and Hamilton were confronted by the authorities in Minnesota. Hamilton was mortally wounded and died 3 days later when he was refused treatment. A week later, the gang robbed the First National Bank of Fostoria, Ohio, before going into hiding. Division of Investigations Chief J. Edgar Hoover created a special task force headquartered in Chicago to locate Dillinger. On July 21st, a woman from a brothel in Indiana, Anna Campanis, also known as Anna Sage, contacted the police. She was a Romanian immigrant threatened with deportation for low moral character and offered the federal agency information on Dillinger in exchange for their help in preventing her deportation. The agency agreed to her terms. Sage told them that Dillinger was spending his time with another prostitute, Polly Hamilton, and that she and the couple would be going to see the movie together on the following day. She agreed to wear an orange dress so that the police could easily identify her. She was unsure which of the 2 theatres they would be attending, but told the agency their names, the Biograph and the Marlborough. Dillinger attended the film Manhattan Melodrama at the Biograph Theatre in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood. Dillinger was with Polly Hamilton and Anna Sage. Once they determined that Dillinger was in the theatre, the lead agent, Samuel P. Cowley, contacted J. Edgar Hoover for instructions, who then recommended that they wait outside rather than risk a gun battle in a crowded theatre. He also told the agents not to put themselves in harm's way and that any man could open fire on Dillinger at the first sign of resistance.
We purchased a bottle of liquor, and we noticed all the police cars, there must have been a dozen police cars that were on the driveway where the theater, the Bijou Theater, was located. And I wondered what was going on there. And somebody says, Dillinger is in the theater and he's going to come out. So we stood by the alleyway where the theater was on. There was an alleyway and then came the theater. People were coming out of there, and I saw a man come out and go into an alley adjoining the theaters, and the police were after him.
When the film let out, Purvis stood by the door and signalled Dillinger's exit by lighting a cigar. Both he and the other agents reported that Dillinger turned his head and looked directly at the agents as he walked by, glanced across the street, then moved ahead of his female companions, reached into his pocket but failed to extract his gun and ran into a nearby alley. 3 men fired the fatal shots. Clarence Hurt fired twice. Charles Winstead fired 3 times and Herman Hollis fired once. Dillinger was hit from behind and he fell face first to the ground. Dillinger was struck 3 times, with 2 bullets entering the chest, one of them nicking his heart, and the fatal shot which entered Dillinger through the back of his neck, severed his spinal cord and tore through his brain before exiting out of the front of his head just under his right eye. Dillinger's body was displayed to the public at the Cook County morgue after his death. Dillinger was buried at Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis.
John Dillinger, 25 years ago today, America's most notorious desperado. Held in a supposedly escape-proof jail presided over by a woman sheriff at Crown Point, Indiana, the cocky bad man bluffed his way out with a wooden gun. Posses hunted him for months following this most spectacular incident in a career of robberies, jailbreaks, and killings that terrorized the Midwest. In March, Dillinger had escaped despite scores of heavily armed guards, and he eluded a nationwide manhunt for months until one summer night in Chicago, the FBI closed in as public enemy number 1 was leaving a North Side theater. The mysterious woman in red caused his downfall. The battle of the FBI against the freewheeling desperados of the early 30s was not over, but the career of the worst of them was ended, with a gun and a tawdry disguise as mementos of a still legendary bad man.